Okay, review Konova G1 slider. First of all, I like the way it looks. Not the most important characteristic to consider, granted, but there's budget sliders out there that don't look as nice as this one. It does have an integrated motor unit that operates the sled right here via a rubber band. Starting and stopping is really smooth, which is good. We have the option of a mechanically adjusted parallax effect. Now that's not as versatile as, say, a programmable pan unit, but it is much cheaper, and considering that this is a budget slider, it is actually a good choice that I'm happy about. One concern with the motor unit being integrated: how easy is it to replace? Is it replaceable at all if I have a faulty motor unit? How long does it take to replace? So that's a concern of mine. Now we can run the unit off of USB-C via a connection right here, or off of Sony NPF batteries, 550s, 750s, or the 970s, depending on how long a battery life you need. If you're doing like a super long time lapse, you can of course hook this up to a big power bank that supports 60-watt power delivery. So the same stuff that can also run your laptop, for example. Now the NPF batteries do not lock, so if you knock them hard enough, they detach and turn that whole thing off, which is most likely going to cost you some valuable time reconnecting to the app if you're using it with a tablet or a phone. That time could be better spent elsewhere. So, by the way, the slider is quiet but not silent. If it moves like hardly at all, yes, I would consider that silent, but regular speed like this, for example, or a speed that is pretty standard, you're gonna hear it. So if a mic is right on top of the camera and it's a sensitive mic, it's probably going to pick that up. Then again, this type of audio, this type of sound, I should say, this type of sound is easily handled in post-production. I mean, any decent voice isolation is gonna completely take care of that. We do have 3 mechanical buttons right here that you can use to control the slider without it being connected to a device, like a tablet or a phone. It's left, right, and stop. The thing is, if you do want to skip connecting the slider via an app and just use the buttons, you can only use the programmed, or I should say pre-programmed in that context, start and stop points that were set up inside the app. There is no way to set start, stop, and speed via the buttons themselves, which is a bit of a shame because there's other options out there as far as sliders are concerned that allow you to completely set up start, stop, and speed only via buttons. And I do really appreciate the speed physical controls give you compared to most applications that you would run on a phone or a tablet. So maybe a firmware update is in order that allows you to set the start and stop position as well as the speed only via the buttons. Would be pretty cool. The slider does have these little legs if you have a flat surface you want to put it on, and they are height adjustable, as you can see, but the mechanism, I'd say, is a bit dated. Then again, on the other hand, it's a tested way to get height adjustability, and it is cheap. So once more, for a budget slider, that's actually a good choice. And there's a bubble level on top right here that shows you whether you're level. Now let's take a look at the app. First of all, you're not required to set up an account to operate the slider. Much appreciated. We connect via Bluetooth, no problems there. The app itself is set up rather simply, which is good. 4 main pages. On the first page, you set up the start and stop position, and in the following 3 pages, you work with these positions. The 3 modes are stop motion, video mode, and time lapse. You can use your phone to execute on all 3 of those, or use a remote control cable and connect a camera to the slider. Stop motion, pretty straightforward. Select the number of frames, select travel direction and exposure time. Then just hit start. You can go back to the last frame or simply backwards frame by frame. You can make this a fixed shot and choose real-time shot with a phone, for example, in which case the app will need to access your camera and storage on the phone or the tablet, the device you're using. Video mode is super simple. Choose to loop the movement or not, select the duration of the shot, and again, you can use a phone or a tablet and use real-time shot. or use manual mode, in which case the slider does not move or loop on its own, but you are required to tap left or right, or use the left and right button on the slider itself to move the slider accordingly. Time-lapse mode, select an interval for the slider to move, the exposure time, the travel direction, and the total number of frames you want to shoot. And then, based on your selection, the duration of the time-lapse is calculated. You can set a delay, make a fixed shot out of this, or again use your phone or tablet to make it a so-called real-time shot. As far as the weight limit is concerned, I know everybody throws numbers around. In my experience, this is the kind of camera, a mirrorless camera with a, well, small to medium-sized lens, that this slider works well with within all the modes. I guess with a simple panning motion, you could load this up beyond the stated weight capacity, and obviously anything smaller than this will also work just fine. 4, I believe, different length options. This is the 120 centimeter version, so that's roughly 4 feet. Overall, good budget slider with good functionality, usability, and stability. Some nice perks like the mechanical buttons and the parallax effect. Some concern about the replaceability of a faulty motor unit. No actual physical manual mode. I mean, you can do it, but there's no dampening system to smooth out your manual motions. A non-locking battery. Less functionality for the mechanical buttons than I would appreciate. But for a motorized, smoothly operating budget slider with a parallax effect that has easily usable modes, namely time-lapse, stop motion, and regular video mode, you actually might want to look into the Konova slider, because what it can do, it does well. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, if you found it helpful, please make sure to leave a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. Any kind of comment or feedback is welcome, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. All the tech that I've used in this video is linked in the description. As always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching, and hopefully see you again soon.